I once believed success came from working harder than your neighbor, until I realized my neighbor was a cat.
A cat.
Yes, a literal cat. Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're exploring some really quite unique source material. It's excerpts from The Cat, The Neighbor, and Mindset Shifts. And our mission really is to unpack this very personal, almost startling revelation that kicks off a whole journey of mindset shifts.
Right.
And the wild part, the insight comes from, believe it or not, a cat.
Yeah, it's amazing, isn't it, how sometimes just a short, seemingly simple story, like an anecdote, can really open up these big conversations. Conversations about, success, value, what we think we need to do to be valued. It challenges assumptions right from the start.
Okay, so let's dive straight into that core moment. The author starts with this confession. Let me confess something.
Yeah.
I once believed success came from working harder than your neighbor. Pretty standard idea, right?
The classic comparison, yeah. Keep up with the Joneses or work harder than them.
But then, bam, the twist.
What's it?
Until I realized my neighbor was a cat.
A cat.
Yes. And the text really leans into it. Yes, a literal cat.
Yeah.
Chilling, doing nothing, still loved.
And that's the core of it, isn't it? That contrast.
Totally.
You've got this ingrained human drive, this belief you have to earn success through effort, through being better than the neighbor.
Right. The ground.
And then you have the cat, just being, chilling, as the source says, doing nothing productive in human terms.
Yet loved.
Yeah.
Accepted. Valued.
Exactly. It forces you, or forced the author at least, to confront that belief. Why does the cat get love without working for it when I feel I have to work so hard? It shines a light on those unexamined beliefs we carry about worth.
And that moment of seeing the cat, that contrast, it led to a pretty immediate conclusion for the author. They write, that's when I knew something was wrong with my mindset.
Yeah, that's the click, the aha moment. And it shows how, sometimes the most profound insights don't come from complex theories or gurus.
Right, not from a book or lecture necessarily.
No, they come from just observing the world around you, seeing something, maybe something ordinary like a cat that just doesn't fit your internal rules, that dissonance.
Like a glitch in the matrix of your own beliefs.
Precisely. It reveals that internal framework isn't quite matching external reality, or at least a reality. It's a catalyst.
And it certainly was a catalyst here. The author says this realization sparked a journey. And listen to how they describe it. A ridiculous, painful, life-altering, hilarious journey.
I love that description. Ridiculous, painful, life-altering, hilarious. It captures the messiness of real change, doesn't it?
It really does. It's not smooth.
No, transformation rarely is. It suggests it's going to involve struggle, maybe some absurdity, deep shifts, and probably finding humor in the process, too. It's human.
Very human. And the source wraps up this introduction with a kind of promise, maybe even a bit of a challenge to the reader.
Okay.
Here are the mindset shifts that absolutely wrecked the way I used to think, and maybe they'll wreck you too.
Wrecked. That's such a strong word.
It is. Not adjusted or tweaked. Wreck.
Right. It implies a real dismantling. You can't just paper over old beliefs sometimes. To build something new, a new way of thinking about success or value.
You have to tear down the old structure first.
Exactly. It suggests these shifts are fundamental, disruptive, necessary demolition before reconstruction.
So recapping this source then.
Yeah.
Just observing a cat, a neighbor cat, just chilling, triggered this huge realization about success, effort, maybe even love.
Yeah, and it kicked off this whole transformative, multifaceted journey.
Challenging ideas many of us probably hold without even thinking about them.
Definitely. And it leaves us, and you listening, with a really interesting thought, I think.
It is.
Well, if observing a simple cat, just doing its cat thing, can spark such a profound challenge to deeply ingrained beliefs about success and worth, what else is out there? What seemingly small, everyday things in your life, things you maybe overlook, might actually hold the key to unlocking your own hidden assumptions? What could trigger your next big mindset shift?
That's a great question. Where are those unexpected teachers hiding in plain sight? Worth keeping an eye out for them, I suppose.
Absolutely. You never know.
We're really getting into something that changes how you might think about intelligence, about learning itself.
Yeah, we're looking at sources, especially Carol Dweck's work, which really challenge that old idea that your abilities are just, fixed, set in stone.
Exactly. Forget that. We're diving into the transformative power of a growth mindset, how it kind of reframes challenges and, unlocks potential.
Makes life feel a bit more winnable, maybe.
Yeah, something like that. Okay, so first up, this big shift in how we even define intelligence.
Right. The fixed mindset view, which Dweck talks about a lot, is basically believing intelligence is static. You've got what you've got.
And if you hit a wall, if you fail, it feels like proof, right? Proof you just don't have it.
It confirms that inner fear, maybe.
But the sources we looked at, they argue really strongly that your brain isn't like that at all. It's actually super adaptable. The Play-Doh analogy comes up.
And that's not just a nice metaphor. It points towards neuroplasticity, the brain's actual ability to change and rewire itself.
Which is pretty amazing when you think about it.
It really is. And what's fascinating is how freeing that idea is. If intelligence isn't fixed, then a setback isn't. It isn't a final verdict on you.
It's more like, okay, what can I learn here? How do I get better?
Precisely. It shifts the whole internal question from, am I smart, to how can I get smarter?
And you mentioned something interesting before about praise.
Oh, yeah. The research suggests that praising innate intelligence, saying you're so clever, can actually backfire. It can sort of nudge someone towards a fixed mindset.
Really? That seems counterintuitive.
It does, but the idea is it makes people afraid to challenge themselves, afraid to lose that clever label. What works better, the sources say, is praising the process.
Like the effort, the strategies.
Exactly. The hard work, the persistence, figuring things out, that reinforces the growth idea.
Okay, so if we accept the brain is adaptable, that leads to the next big thing, how we view effort.
Right. Because if you have a fixed mindset, you might think, well, if I was really smart, this wouldn't be so hard. Effort feels like a sign you're lacking something.
Like needing instructions means you're not a genius.
Sort of, yeah. But the growth mindset flips that completely. Effort isn't weakness. It's the engine. It's how you get smarter.
It's the mechanism for molding that Play-Doh brain.
That's a great way to put it. It's not just about gritting your teeth and trying harder, though. It's about deliberate practice, smart effort.
Seeking out the tough stuff, learning from mistakes.
Yes. Connecting this to the bigger picture, effort becomes the active ingredient in growth. It's how you literally build those new neural connections. It's strategic.
Which naturally brings us to failure, something most of us, let's be honest, try to avoid.
Definitely. In a fixed mindset, failure feels like a judgment. It's embarrassing, maybe shameful, something to hide.
Like that end.
Yeah. But with a growth mindset, it's different. Failure isn't the end, it's data.
Like a checkpoint in a video game saying, okay, that approach didn't work.
Exactly like that. It's information. What went wrong? What can I learn? How do I adjust for the next try? It's about dissecting it, not being defined by it.
So it's about embracing those sometimes awkward failures.
It raises that important question, doesn't it? How does seeing failure as just a necessary step change how we learn?
It makes it less terrifying. For one.
Right. The sources emphasize it's not about loving failure itself, but loving the learning that failure makes possible, asking, what can this teach me, instead of, what does this mean about me?
That's a powerful shift. And it doesn't just stop with personal achievement, does it? The sources mentioned relationships, too.
Oh, absolutely. There's a big ripple effect. A fixed mindset in relationships might sound like, well, if this is hard, it's obviously not meant to be.
So you bail at the first sign of real conflict.
Potentially, yes.
Yeah.
Or you just assume the problems are insurmountable. But a growth mindset sees relationships like skills as things that can be developed.
Through effort and learning.
Yes. Challenges become opportunities to understand each other better, to grow together, to solve problems collaboratively. It's about evolving, adapting.
Okay, so wrapping this up, what's the big takeaway for you listening right now?
Well, it really boils down to belief, doesn't it? If you genuinely believe your brain, your abilities are fixed like a rock, you'll act accordingly. You'll limit yourself.
But if you believe you can grow, that effort pays off. That failure is feedback.
Then suddenly life looks very different. Challenges become interesting, not just threatening. Setbacks are just part of the process.
It turns your whole journey into something more like an adventure, with learning and leveling up along the way.
It's more than just a mindset shift. It touches on identity, on what you believe is possible for yourself. It's about letting yourself evolve.
Believing in that capacity for change.
Exactly. So the question for you is, what really resonates? What part of this growth approach stands out for your life? And maybe think about a challenge you're facing now. How might looking at it with a growth mindset change how you approach it?